Tired of ads interrupting your favorite show? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free lifestyle to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.
Hi everyone, welcome to the social media derby. How you doing, Jonty? You all right?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad apart from what I've just watched.
Yeah, I was going to say that might be a bit of a harsh question to ask straight after that result. But let's get into it then, man. Let's talk. Well, first of all, let's try and record this podcast once and not 4 times like we did last time, because I think the listeners and viewers definitely, if there were any, definitely would have noticed that our enthusiasm levels were on the bloody floor, weren't they, by the end?
Yeah. I mean, when you have to record the same thing 4 times, it doesn't make it very organic. So
doesn't quite bang the same time as it did before. But let's try and get it done in one. There's nowhere else to start, is there? Arsenal 0, Brighton 3. Title race has got to be over. What's your thoughts?
I mean, poor performance. I think that's how I can characterize it in 2 words. It was a poor performance at home. Crucial game. We saw Man City beat Everton, obviously, convincingly. We knew we needed to get something from this game if we want to stay in the title race, even though, like I said last week, we're pretty much done anyway. And it was a poor game. So they had possession most of the game again. I think we had something like 40-ish% of possession. And that wasn't flattering to them at all. They really did dominate possession. In first half, we weren't too bad. I mean, it was a competitive game in the first half. They were real smart in terms of how they broke up play. Caicedo and a lot of their other players in the midfield particularly were breaking up play very, very nicely. Kind of got us frustrated a little bit. I think generally speaking from our point of view, in terms of attacking, it didn't quite click. So we got a couple of good chances. I'm thinking of Trossard, hitting the bar. Obviously that was a deflection, should have been a corner. A couple of chances where Odegaard was kind of through on goal or had a bit of a shot available to him and he maybe dilly-dallied a bit too much. That first half, obviously we came out of that first half thinking that it wasn't over. We could still do all right. We could still do something here. And then, we just fell apart in the second half. And, I said this to you in the group chat, right? 3 soft goals, 3 very, very soft goals to be conceding. It's not like, when you concede a goal that just was great play or was out of your hands in some sort of way, you put your hands up and say, what can you do? But in these, all 3 of these goals were shocking and we should not have let any single one of them in. The first one, first of all, I saw Gary Neville and Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira and Michael Richards kind of discussing this on telly, but there was kind of an agreement between them that it shouldn't have been a foul or the play shouldn't have been stopped after Evan Ferguson stepped on the back of Kiwior's left or right ankle and took off his boot. But if you look at where Enciso was when he scored the goal, if you look at who was in front of him, if you look at Tierney and his position, if you look at all of that, if Kiwior's boot was still on his foot and he was actually paying attention to play and he wasn't having to put his boot back on, he would have been perfectly in position to stop that header from Enciso getting on the end of that. So I think it was a poor goal to concede. If I was Kiwior, or at least as a fan, I was expecting him to be a bit more John Terry-like and just hobble around with one boot on or something. But he knelt down, put his boot back on, and we conceded a very, very soft goal. So that was the first thing. It was absolutely, it was a really soft as baby shit type of goal to be letting in, and it was disappointing to see. Second goal, similar kind of story. I mean, the second goal doesn't get me quite as angry just because it's part of what happens when you try and play it out from the back, right? So Ramsdale passes one out to Trossard, who's trying to be a bit cheeky, a bit cute with it, trying to kind of like outside of the foot, knock one on to Saka, and he just gets caught with it. It deflects back, Partey slow off the mark again, and Undav has basically a free shot on goal. I think Ramsdale gets sold a bit too easily. Like I could see, like people in flipping Tibet could have seen he was going to try and chip him, and Ramsdale just stood there and did fuck all. So that was really annoying for me to see. That was a soft goal again. Didn't look like any urgency in our back line. The two centre backs had separated out to give an option to Ramsdale, but it's just risky play. And we got punished for it. And it, again, well, not a great goal to concede, not a goal where you think that, there's nothing you could have done. And then the third goal, Ramsdale, I don't know what he's doing there. He's palming it straight into the path of Estepinian, who just slaps it into the goal. It's shocking play. But by that time, the game was pretty much over anyway. And I can't fault us too much for that, because obviously we're going for it. But again, just a soft goal to be conceding. So overall, very disappointing performance. Ben White was, in multiple, or let's say, didn't have anyone in his pockets. His pockets were completely empty. In fact, he probably didn't even have pockets. It was so bad. He was getting ripped by Matoma. He was getting ripped by Enciso. It wasn't great to see. I've never seen him get ripped like that as well. They were just playing balls over the top, over and over again. Just, it was like, I was like Groundhog Day. I was watching the same ball over and over again, going over his head, him getting stop-started over and over again. Matoma really was real smart about it. Stood him up, stop-started, and then went left or right. And every single time sold him. And, reminds me of when Martinez got sent to the shops. It was like that with him. He was just getting sent left, right, centre. And Matoma made him look like an absolute joke, mate.
You absolute scumbag. Thanks for that. To drag me in your mess. But no, yeah, man, it was a bit of a weird one. I've got to be honest. I didn't see the whole match. I came back from Manny. I went to go and see United play Wolves, so I just caught the last 15 minutes or so. But I think that was unfair. That's probably an unfair. I watched the highlights afterwards to try and make sure, like, I wasn't unfairly judging it based on that 15 minutes. Because on that 15 minutes at 1-0 down, like we all know the situation, Arsenal got to go for it. So you couldn't even draw that much. Like, you had to go for it. So I knew that, we all knew that basically that was, you guys were going to go for it. You could get caught on the counter. You could make a little mistake because you're under more pressure. It was, the way I saw that game was, it was either going to be a bit of a Southampton type thing where you go out with a blaze of glory, get back into the game, even at 2-0. I thought you possibly could do that. Or they catch you on the counter, or you make another mistake, and boom, Brighton wrap it up. And unfortunately for you, it was the latter. And then you had De Zerbi running down the pitch side doing Mourinho 2.0 celebrations. He's a bit of a shithouse, isn't he? I love it. He's an absolute shithouse. It's not good when it happens to you, but when it happens to someone else, you love it. It's the class.
He was class. I mean, it really roughed me up the wrong way when I was seeing him bloody sliding on his knees for the third goal, which was garbage time goal. It was a goal at the end of the game. He knew it was already over, and he's sliding on his knees. He was taking the absolute piss. And if I was Arteta, I would have been absolutely raging. It would have been a Tuchel Conte type of situation, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I probably, knowing our anger issues, we probably would have done that. But I think I get it from his perspective, because even though I know Brighton have gone away to United, they've gone away to us and won at OT, only team to do it this season, I think, in the Prem. They've gone and beat, I think it's the third season in a row they've beaten you at Emirates, or the third time in a row, I think it might have been. But he wasn't there for any of those. He literally was there for none of those big results away. So I get why he was probably very emotional, and he just seems like that type of guy. He likes to remember him and Stellini, like we're going at it as well. Like, he seems to be that type of character. But don't get me wrong, they play great football. Like, there were some parts of what I saw, I look back on the stats and stuff, and we talked about it, where it's predictable. Like, they're going to have more of the ball, regardless. Like, they come to your place or at their ground, they generally have more of the ball. But it's like, we played them a couple of weeks back, and it was really frustrating because I felt like we had just as many chances as them, and then Luke Shaw does Superman and brain freeze, and we screw it up and we lose. But 3-0 obviously makes it look like they've slapped you, but like in the context of I think your analysis makes a lot more sense. And yeah, man, it's just I watched the highlights, and when it looks, I told you about this in the group chat, like it was barely any Arsenal highlights. It was mostly Brighton highlights, and I think I remember the Trossard one was there. You had the Reece Nelson where he like flashed slightly wide of the post, but I think
Yeah, had
that
a
was
couple of
already
Saka
late on.
chances too. Saka put a
Yeah,
couple past the post as well.
it didn't. It just didn't look like what you'd expect if Arsenal are at home to a team. They're going to have chances 9 times out of 10. Even if they're a bit sloppy at the back, they should have chances as well. And it just didn't look like it. It looked like a flat performance on the Arsenal side, and it looked like Brighton was smart. They definitely were smart. Like from the highlights that I saw in the last 10 minutes, you're right about Ben White. I've never seen him get run ragged like that before ever. Like Matoma did him every time from what I saw in the highlights. Anyway, I think by the time I watched it, Matoma was near. Like I think he got subbed or he like got moved around a bit. So he wasn't directly on White for the whole final 15, 20 minutes or whatever. But yeah, it was rough. And I get what you're saying about the second goal, but I just feel like it's like we'll talk about De Gea later. It's like there's too many of those type of goals that you're conceding. Like I wouldn't say it's necessarily Rambo's fault for that goal because obviously Trossard's decided to do something a bit too cheeky and intricate when he's being pressed heavily. Like you probably shouldn't do that, but that's totally avoidable. And I think you're right. Those 3 goals to concede are rough. They're rough goals to concede. Like the first one, you talked about it, like probably should have been disallowed. If you look at other situations like that previously, probably VAR looks at it and it gets chalked off. But even if it doesn't, it's a shit goal to concede. It wasn't like some beautifully worked goal and nothing you can do about it, or like this top class. You could have avoided
Yeah,
that.
no, it's a Sunday
All
league
of
goal.
them.
That was a Sunday league goal to be conceding. It was shocking, honestly shocking. And I mean, on the second goal as well, I think this is an issue that I see is when it comes to playing it out through the back, right? You typically play it down the wings usually for the most part, right? When you're playing it through the middle, you're doing it when people have a bit more time on the ball. And I think it's something you don't necessarily see happen to City very often because I just think that it's really about decision making, right? And we talked about it before with De Gea previously when he was passing it out to Maguire. It's about the decision making from the goalkeeper. It's about the decision making of the entire back unit. And I think it takes a lot of practice and it takes, I guess, making these kinds of mistakes to really get to the point where you know exactly what kind of ball to be playing. And it's the same thing for Trossard too. He's not somebody who's necessarily played in this kind of system in the way that we do it, at least for a very long time. And it was just real. It just looked really rookie to me. And I don't like to look at a goal and think there's nothing we could have done there. There's clearly things we could have done there. Better decision making from Ramsdale in terms of who he's given it to from a distribution standpoint. And from Trossard's point of view, come on, mate. You're 1-0 down. Let's not try and be cute here. Let's keep the ball. We clearly have a problem when we don't dominate possession. We don't really win. And I think it's kind of a transition that City went through as well, I guess, this season where they were coming up against certain teams and they realised, you know what, I'm not going to have possession all the time. I've got to figure out another way to win. And it just looked like we weren't a great counter-attacking team. We didn't really have very many options, which saddens me given like how much pace and the attacking threats that we've got up front that we can't do anything against the team who wants to dominate possession. And I don't know, like United are a great team when it comes to that, right? You don't need to have a lot of possession and you'll still, smack people on a counter attack and get goals. And it just looks like for us, we don't have a plan B. I mean, Io in a group chat said it perfectly. There is no plan B with Arteta's game plan in a lot of cases. And we've got to have a plan B because we're not going to have the same story dominating possession every single time.
Yeah, it's a rough one, isn't it? Because you're right. I think United are at the other side, and we've got a manager who wants to have more of the ball, but he's got a team that's got a legacy of being, at least in the last 5, 6, 7 years, a bit more of a counter-attacking team. And I feel like you guys and what Arteta's trying to do is very Pep. And that's like, we're going to master this one style to the level that even if people can find ways around it, we're always going to be effective. And there's still a high chance that we'll win carrying on playing the same way. And I think you just haven't reached that full potential yet. It makes sense. You don't have a lot of your players are young. We've talked about it previously. They haven't reached their full potential. So it's, City's, you're looking in the looking glass really and seeing what you could be in the future if your players reach their potential. But Saka's an interesting one because we've had talks about this because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on social media about Saka, Rashford, and their stats over the last couple of months not being fantastic. Let's pivot to our big, like, kind of key topic of the day and the team of the season, because I know that we've had discussions about whether Saka should be in there because he's been left out, hasn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't included in the first squad. He was included as like I guess, he was included as like an honourable mention on the back end, but didn't get into that first squad. No, so it was. I'll read it out just for the audience, just so you know. So you had Ramsdale in goal, Trippier right back, Zinchenko left back, Ruben Diaz and Saliba at centre backs. Then you had a midfield three of Odegaard, De Bruyne, and Casemiro, and then up front you had Salah, Rashford, and Haaland.
Right, that makes sense. Let's go through the positions then, and like, because I don't think it's a terrible list, and like it's difficult to analyze because everyone makes lists. There's bare of them, right? Like we have to like go and search what the official list name of this one is because like there's so many out there. Like some that we agree with, some ridiculous. I think this one's not terrible, but let's analyze some of the positions. Let's start off with striker was Haaland. Yeah, I think we're not arguing with that, right? I think he scored again today. It's just robotic levels. It's unbelievable. He's so good. Rashford, I think, was left wing, wasn't he? I mean, personally, I'm not going to argue with that because I know that a lot of other left wingers have scored goals, and I know, for example, Martinelli's a great shout. I think he's an honourable mention, isn't he? I think that makes complete sense. He should definitely be there. Son's dropped off. Who's another left winger you could throw in that convo? I know Matoma's done well, but Matoma's one of those players.
Matoma would be in the conversation, but obviously he hasn't been about he hasn't been doing it as long, I guess, as maybe Saka or not Saka, but Martinelli or Rashford. So I think he's in the conversation as well. I mean, outside of that, Liverpool's left wing has been kind of up and down depending on injuries. Obviously Chelsea's not getting anywhere near that with any of their players. They're all shit. No, it doesn't seem like really there's too many options. I guess you could think about maybe including Grealish. I know a lot of people have been adding him and, been very happy with his performances over the last couple of months. I know you've got something different to say about that.
Yeah, I want to get into this. I have to cut you off there. I'm going to get into this because this is really grinding my fucking gears. I've got to be honest, this Grealish chat, because I kind of understand where City fans are coming from in that, they've been backing him since they bought him for 100 million. But let's keep it all the way real and very funky, like we need to on this pod. He's been absolutely fucking shit for how many months has he been there? Like probably like 20 months. He's probably been shit there for 18 months of that time. And people, I've heard a lot of like, there's not many of them, like City fans on, in general, but online as well. But they've said, but he's won the title, he's been part of the title winning team, and they've won all the XYZ, whatever. Yeah, fair enough. He's not contributed a lot to those wins, right? He's been part of it, but he's basically had, a David May, Nicky Butt effect on winning teams for that team up until now, and he's played really well for this 2 months. I won't argue with that. If City fans want to come and say he's been really good, he's had all this impact, blah, 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 I feel like he has had more impact for sure. He's caused problems, but I feel like the way Pep's using him, he's not going to get the goals and assists alongside the performances that are going to be able to convince me that he's anywhere near this conversation. Because if we talk about Martinelli, people want to rinse Martinelli and say that he's a dribble merchant and he looks down and he runs at people and he doesn't pass, he doesn't do whatever. My man scored 15 goals or whatever he scored. He's got loads of goals and he impacts a lot your team. So I don't want to hear that. Martinelli's definitely in there and he's streaks ahead of Grealish. I don't give a flying fuck what Grealish has done in this 2 months. None of it has been anywhere near good enough to get in this conversation. And it's, for me, this is a shot between Rashford or Martinelli. And if I look at the overall impact of the teams, I'm probably going to say Rashford. I'm obviously biased too, because it's been Rashford or chill. Like we don't have many goal outlets other than Rashford, and he's turned up big time. And I think we need to look up the stats on this, but I'm sure if you look at how many, like the value of his goals, if there have been equalizers or winning goals, he's got a very high number of winning goals, either as to get a draw or to turn a draw into a win. So for that reason, I think it should be Rashford, and they've got it right. But I will hear, a debate from Arsenal fans about Martinelli. I won't hear anything from City fans about Grealish. They need to pipe down, because that's, let him have a good season next season and get some GA, and I think they can start piping up and getting in the conversation. But for now, the sample sizes, they don't add up. He's been shit for 18 months and been good for 2. Like that's not, we've got to calm down. He shouldn't be in that convo, man. I think the Rashford one's fair. All right, that's enough about Grealish. A rant over. Let's talk about the real controversial one, which I think is the Salah Saka. I think we're probably on the same page with this, but just in case, what's your opinion? Because I looked up Salah's stats and he's scored goals, man. I was shocked because I thought this one was a cut and dry. This was a shocker. Saka should be in, but what do you think? Salah's got numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on who's the outlet of the team, right? At the moment, yeah, Salah's scoring a lot of goals, but he's pretty much the only goals that Liverpool are scoring. So he's really being used as the kind of main outlet for that team. Whereas with Saka, you've got Martinelli, you've got other players in that team that are contributing. You've got Odegaard, you've got players that are contributing like double figures to the team. And I think if we're talking about just goals and assists, of course, yeah, give it to Salah if you want to do that. But if you're thinking about contribution to the team, if you're thinking about where the actual team of each player ended up at the end of the season and how important each player was to that, I think for Saka, you can say that he was a critical part of our team getting anywhere near the top. I think he's shown himself to be a leader in our team, even though he's really, really young, right? He's shown himself to be a leader in our team. He's shown himself to be someone that can stand up in difficult moments. I know he's had some difficult moments in terms of actually not being able to put away penalties and so on, but at the end of the day, we would never be in a position that we're in without him. And I think it's an interesting argument. I can see it kind of going either way. I would obviously prefer to have Saka in there. I think Saka's really contributed a lot to the Arsenal team. And like I said, we wouldn't be where we are without him. But at the end of the day, if Liverpool end up getting top 4, or if they even come 5th, most of it's going to be down to Mo Salah. So it's an interesting conversation. Obviously, I lean towards Saka, just given the fact that he is not just a goal merchant. He's out here actually contributing more than that in terms of goals and assists and how we play as a team. With Salah, obviously, again, like I said, he's the main outlet for that team. I'm interested to hear how you see it, though, too, because I know you've always been a big, let's say, opponent of Salah's, and kind of, what did you call him? Functional, but nothing more.
Yeah, you're setting me up for a downfall, isn't it? I've never liked Salah's technique or anything. Like, he's not one of those players that, like, I look at and he, on the eye, it looks like a beautiful, like, his style was not something that has ever really, like, caught my eye and made me think he's like a world class top level baller. But I mean, his stats prove me wrong. So, his performances prove me wrong. So there are players in any sport that I guess don't have like the best technique, but just achieve greatness. And I do think you can say that about Salah. So before any Liverpool fan friends of ours come for me and say anything about it, right? I will caveat that with I will caveat my opinion with that. I think Saka should be in this hands down. And people might think that contradicts my opinion about the Martinelli Rashford one, but like, I'll openly admit, I think a bit of bias is in there. And maybe if you look at like the goal defining, like the goals that define how the result ends up for Rashford, they're probably a bit higher than Martinelli. But I'm just saying that off vibes and feelings. But I think for Saka and Salah, you're right. Saka's been so critical. And I think if you combine his goals and assists, I think he's clear of Salah. I think Salah might have a few more goals, but Saka's got double-digit goals and assists. I think it's only him and Kvaradona at Napoli and maybe one other player in world football that has, maybe KDB, I think, or something like that, that has double digits, both goals and assists. Odegaard might be in that shout now as well because he's done amazingly recently. But so I think if you factor that in, you factor, I think it's extremely harsh to use Saka's recent little dip in form against him. Because all right, he's missed one penalty. Like we act like he's missed 3 or 4. He's missed one. Salah's missed more than that in that time, and they're a team chasing, like you said, getting in the Champions League, salvaging what's been a horrendous season for them. And I'm saying that touching all the wood in my house because I don't want them to catch us. And it could happen, yeah. So clip this up if this goes up and we lose it. But I don't think you can put Salah in there. You would be doing it purely off stats on this season. On other seasons, you can't argue. Even if I watch Salah and I don't think he's, gliding with the ball like the most beautiful technical player, I can understand how his impact had an effect on Liverpool, either winning a Champions League or winning the Premier League or getting a 90-plus season or doing whatever, any of these amazing things. Even last season, winning a couple, the domestic cups, what we're trying to do this season. They're achievements, man. I can totally get down and put my feelings or preference aside about what kind of football I like. But this season, man, that's too harsh. Saka's got to get praise. You guys are probably going to come away from the season without a trophy. No digs, but it's just probably a fact. He's got to get something. I'm sorry, he's got to get something. I feel like that about the end of season awards. He's got to win young player because Haaland's going to win player, right, of the season. Saka's got to get some merit, right? He's not my star boy, but he kind of feels like an adopted star boy. I love Saka, right? So he's got to get some credit, man. We can't be having this where he's not coming away with anything in a season like this.
This is an interesting conversation to have because, I mean, you can have it about a lot of people in this team of the season too. I mean, if you look at Haaland, of course, everyone's going to say hands down. But if I play devil's advocate here, right, you look at Haaland, you look at Kane, you can say that one of those players, take them out of the team and their team will still be really, really good. And the other one, you say, take him out of the team and that team will absolutely collapse to nothing. And I think with Salah and Saka, it's a similar argument. With Rashford, Martinelli, it's probably a slightly similar argument too, right? If you had taken Kane out that Tottenham team, they would be absolutely nothing this season. If you took Salah out of that Liverpool team, they would probably be much further down than they are now. If you took Rashford out of that team, again, critical goals taken away from the team. So it's I can see why the argument might be made in certain circumstances. If a player is really carrying their team on their back, then they deserve to get in. But what's your take on that? Because I mean, if you look through this whole team, you could have that argument, and I think there's got to be a couple of players in there that are just putting their team on their back, even if their team isn't performing the highest. Otherwise, at the end of the day, this team is just going to be a team of Man City players, Arsenal players, and Newcastle players, right? So I think, what's your viewpoint from that point of view? Because you've got a couple in here as well, right? You've got Haalands, you've got the Rashfords, you've got the Salahs. You've got quite a few players in this team that you could have that argument with their kind of whoever came second to them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know though. Can you? Like, I mean, the Haaland one, I kind of get it. Kane's because it's Haaland out way clear, and then Kane's actually like way clear of everyone else, but like not close to Haaland really. So he's had a phenomenal season, and you're right. Tottenham would be knows where they would be without him this season. They might be with Chelsea and West Ham and them, man, and like fighting relegation or doing whatever. Like they'd be that bad. But I don't think that about Liverpool. I think their players have underperformed this season for sure, but people are giving them, I don't know if that's true actually. I was about to say people have been giving them, an easy one for being so terrible this season. Probably they haven't. Like we've been bantering them loads. But they've got enough in their team. I look at Spurs and I don't think that. I know Son was amazing in the last couple of seasons, but we all know that was the Son and Kane team. Like Pep may have just called it the Kane team, but really that was the Son and Kane team. The rest of them are shite. Like I don't want to hear it. Like the majority of their players are rubbish, or average, or like have been infected by the rubbish and average and become rubbish. Right? Like I think Romero's decent, but from what I'm seeing, he's catastrophic at the moment. And Kulusevski looked good at the beginning, but now he's looking a little bit janky.
Bentancur, yeah.
Yeah, I mean Bentancur, he's injured, so I don't know. Yeah. He was probably one of their shining lights, who they're now realizing is. I
think he was probably their only other nominee in the team of the season, to be honest.
That's kind as well. I'm sorry, like I keep swearing. We're gonna have to get that swear button to like cover us up. It's going to be on overdrive when we do the editing, but like he should not be in that convo. Like he was good for Spurs, but like, come on, there's bare midfielders that have been amazing. He's been injured for the last couple of months. He would have played half the season. So some of these are a bit. Overall, I think the team this season is pretty good, but some of these are a bit debatable. If we talk about like your point about like match winners and people carrying on the back, I think that's the only way Salah's in this. And you probably could apply a little bit to Rashford as well. Less so with Haaland, because, I mean, I know he's scoring all their goals, but, you know, they've proved that without Haaland, they could score loads and be top. So he's changed
that's
the way
exactly
they
like
play.
exactly. That's like the argument, though, is like, I think a lot of people have tried to make the argument, if you took Haaland out of that team and you had Alvarez coming in, they would still be really, really good, right? They'd probably still be winning the league and whatever else. So I guess the argument is against the Haalands versus like the types of Salahs, where maybe if you took him out of that team, that Liverpool team would be suffering.
No, but
right?
I get it. You've got got to have a bit of blend of both. But I think when you look at Haaland, you can't put anyone else but Haaland. He scored so many goals. He has to go there. And then Rashford is, I think, on the left wing, it's a shootout, Rashford and Martinelli. I think right wing, it rightly probably should be, because there's not many great right wingers left in a league, right? It's a weird position where, you know, just we don't have many. It's Saka, Mahrez, Salah, and Mahrez hasn't played a lot, so he's just disqualified himself from this.
I think
season team.
Almiron even got a nomination for this as well. But I mean, he was no offense to Almiron, he was great earlier this season, got me a lot of fantasy points. But
exactly, come on,
he doesn't belong there.
Don't Jack Grealish him. Don't come out and call people Almirons and that. He's done amazing this season. He's made, like, Jack Grealish should really have a word with himself, right? Almiron should equally go out there and say to who's their left winger? Say to Sam Maximum, you've been playing like Grealish this season, mate. Sort yourself out, because that's on this season anyway. That's he's got more justification saying that. But I think it is a shootout between Saka and Salah, and I think Saka. People are underrating the impact Saka has on that Arsenal team. I think he's got the stats that are better than Salah, but his importance to Arsenal is critical, because you see he dips a bit in form. Arsenal struggle way more. I know he's still won matches here and there, but like the impact on the team's huge. So I just feel like he's got to go in there. He's got to. And I think Salah's stats are great, and I get it. If you take away his goals, you know, maybe Liverpool will be lower down the table. But I don't think you can. I think you can make the argument, but I think this one should be heavily in Saka's favour. I think, and if we move on, because otherwise we can talk about that position forever.
So yeah, exactly. If we move on a little bit here now, I mean, if you look at Man United players in that team, I think you've got two in the main team and one honourable mention in Varane. But obviously, there's a couple of omissions that I'm sure Man United fans will disagree with. I think the first one, obviously, is Martinez. I think he clearly made a big impact on your team, and I'm sure you'll get into that. The second one is there's a certain band of fans, I don't know what they're smoking, but they believe that De Gea has a shout of getting into the team over Ramsdale because of the clean sheet record and all that. What's your take on Man United players and some of the ones that have missed out?
Yeah, I think if we run through the midfield, I think that's pretty much right. I think KDB, Odegaard, 100%, hands down, been the best two central attacking midfielders, or whatever you want to call them. I think Casemiro is in the convo, but I think, you know, Rodri's agent's got to be calling FIFA and threatening not to be given the rights to be in the character.
That's got to be one of the absolute howlers of this list. Is Rodri not being in
Rodri's season been impeccable. He's not been flashy or anything like that. You know, you might underrate his impact because Casemiro is new and he's kind of galvanised the team a little bit, so it might be a bit of recency bias or whatever. Partey, obviously, up until recent weeks, been really good and really impacted Arsenal's game. But I think Rodri's got to get in there. So even as a Man U fan, I've got to be unbiased about that and say he's definitely been the best DM, hands down. I think the defence is pretty much on point. Trippier's definitely probably been the best right back, but Ben White's in with a shout. But I think Trippier's probably got the better stats and driven. He's been Newcastle's big kind of outlet for creativity alongside Bruno G. So I think that makes sense. Zinchenko, with my Man U hat on, Luke Shaw's better than him, but whatever.
Oh,
I can
shut
understand.
up. No chance you're giving Luke Shaw left back of the season. What are you smoking?
No, that's my only like super biased, tie from AFTV type vibe where I'm going to throw my guy in there. But I do think the convo is between the two of them, though. I've got to be honest. I do think.
We had this conversation kind of offline, and I mean, I think that was my big point, was that there's just not really a lot of great left backs to really talk about this season, right? I mean, you got Maleficent, you got Shaw, you got Zinchenko. I know. Just had to get that dig in there, but yeah.
You bastard. But no, Malacia started really good, but I mean, he doesn't play a lot, and he's been he's thrown some right clangers recently, so I could never even throw him in that combo. I think it is a shootout between Zinchenko and Shaw. I'm trying to think of another left back that's had impact. Like, no, I don't think Chilwell can be in the conversation. He's been injured, and even when he does play, I don't know what the fuss is about him. I think he's decent, but I don't think he's in that combo. Andy Robertson had a lackluster season. I think before he'd be in this combo. If not, he'd be the best left back. But I think this season he hasn't been good. So I think it is between Shaw and Zinchenko. And preference, I would pick Shaw, but I understand why Zinchenko got in there, right? But I would pick Shaw, right? That's going to be my shameless one. Who's the centre-backs again? You said... You
got Ruben Diaz and Saliba.
All right, so Saliba I'm fine with.
You got Varane as an honourable mention.
Yeah, so I'm fine with Saliba, right? I know he's been injured for a while, but impact's been unbelievable, right? Take him out. Gabriel's started to look a bit bozo-ish again. Everything's looking a little bit not so great in defence, right? Up until you brought Kirill in, who's up until today looked all right. But Saliba definitely has been a game changer, so I think he should get in there. I think the Ruben Diaz one is a shocker because I rate him. He probably is the best centre-back on quality alongside Van Dijk of recent years, but he's missed most of the season. So that doesn't make sense. He's been great since he's come back. I get it, but if this was team of the week or team of the month, okay. But team of the season, Diaz, he's barely played. So that's a clanger. I'd put Lisandro Martinez in there.
Well, that's where I think it's really difficult to put City players into the team because of the constant switching around. Like if you think about like Rico Lewis, if he had a whole season, who knows where he'd go. Nathan Ake. I mean, I'm sure Man City fans will be arguing with us talking about just Shaw and Zinchenko because obviously Nathan Ake's been playing on the left side and been really, really good.
I'll put my hand up. That's on my bad. That's on my bad. Ake should be in that conversation as well. That's true. Ake should be in that conversation. I won't shit on City here for that. Like he's been quality, and I didn't rate Ake before, but I rate him now. He's a really good defender. So he should be in there as well, and maybe he should be in there. Actually, like I don't think he's had.
I think there's a strong argument for him in there because I think there's definitely very strong arguments against Zinchenko and against Luke Shaw being in this team, just given the fact that both of the teams that they play for have had some absolute clangers from that coming from that side of the pitch. But again, like I say, but it's really difficult to put Man City players into this team because they're playing so many people out of position. They're constantly swapping positions around. I mean, if you want to talk about that, then if you gave John Stones a bit more time, you put him in as DM of the season. You can't keep doing this with Pep's teams. It's ridiculous. We're going to have just a fluid 11 team of the season just of random players in completely out of position. It feels like a FIFA release or something. I don't know what's going on with his team.
No, but actually you bring up a great point. Johnny Stones, I'll put my Man U bias to the side. And I can say if you're doing a straight shootout between Johnny Stones and Martinez, I'd probably favour Stones. I think Stones has been one of the most underrated defenders over the last few years. He's been top. He's class. So I think it really is a toss-up between probably John Stones, Saliba, Lisandro Martinez, probably Sven Botman from Newcastle's got a shout. Like those four, pick two from those four and I could be happy. Like I think I'd be happy with them. Diaz though, get out of here. Get him in the bin. He shouldn't be in that team of the season. Varane, I love him. Class. He's been really good this season. Like I was getting slander from you, mate, about Varane from last season, how bad he was. This season has been more like the Varane that I think people have seen previously from Madrid. He's looked good. But what's clear and has been confirmed is he needs someone who's hard as nails next to him and is going to be like the coordinator. He had Ramos before and now he's had Martinez now. He clearly needs that. If he doesn't, then he can be infected by uncertainty and make clangers, right? So that's clear. So I think honourable mentions, cute for him, nice, okay, I'll take it, but I think Botman's agent, I think Lissandro Martinez's agent, I think Johnny Stones' agent should be calling them up as well and saying, look, we don't put our player in the next FIFA. You guys are banned. Screw you guys, because they should definitely be in there.
I think that's an important note to bring up. What you just said as well is like about Varane needing someone next to him, right? And I feel like it's always a little bit unfair to judge defenders based off of just singular individual performances. I know that's what we want to do when we look at players like Van Dijk and all that. But I feel like it's a real disservice because, in my opinion, and I mean, I played as a centre back growing up. I wasn't great, obviously, but it's all about the centre back pairing, right? And it's all about the two players that play together and how they play together. And I think when it comes to Saliba and putting him next to Gabriel, you saw Gabriel look like he wasn't a bozo anymore. And then you take him out of the team, you put him next to Rob Holding, and it's just bozo central. So I think it's a bit unfair when we try and look at like centre back by centre back. Obviously, players like Martinez obviously stand out. Players like Saliba stand out because of their individual, contributions to the team. But in a lot of senses, I think it should be based off of the centre back pairing. And I think maybe there's maybe some room in this team in the future for taking that more into account. Because I would argue with you, Varane is your second best centre back. He's not even your first centre back. And he's getting into team of the season, right?
Well, he's honourable mention here. I agree with you. I think if you want to do that, you've got to pick the better one of a pair. And I think if you do that with Arsenal, Saliba, I think actually, I don't know. I think Gabriel might have been better when they've been a pair together. But I think you've seen Gabriel by himself now without Saliba, and that kind of checks his points down. And you go, it must have been because Saliba was so good. So he gets in. I think you do Botman over Shah. I think you definitely do Lissandro over Varane. And it's not only because of the tousery intangibles of Lissandro. He's a silky baller as well. He's got great feet and he makes loads of incisive passes. So he's got like a perfect blend for everything that you'd want in a centre back. He's obviously a bit small, so you might be able to bully him. That's the truth. But ultimately, he's been better than Varane when they've been together, and he's had more impact on our team. So I agree with you. So I think, Lissandro, like I said, that four is probably the four guys that can talk the most about, deserving to be in there. And then we go to the goalie. I think it's right. I think Rambo being in there is right. Like, people pull up all the stats, and we'll get to our next hot take topic a little bit later, which is off the De Gea part, like you said. If you look at clean sheets, then De Gea is supposed to be in, yeah? But if you look at a goalie as a whole, I don't think you can look at just clean sheets. Like, some of the other stats, but what do you think? Do you think it's right to put Rambo in?
No, I mean, I think it is. I think this season we haven't had an outstanding goalkeeper that's just been kind of hard to argue against. I think all of the goalkeepers in contention for it, that you could argue something against all of them, right? If you talk about Alisson, you can say Liverpool have had a poor season, right? If you talk about Edison, you could say he hasn't had to do anything because Man City are so good. You can talk about De Gea and you can say, yeah, he's got a lot of clean sheets, but at the same time, he's put in literal game-losing clangers on multiple occasions this season. I think with Ramsdale, again, you could look at him and say, our team, we're performing really well in terms of just general, people didn't think we'd be in this position before, and he's been a big reason why. But at the same time, you can look at him and say he's put in a couple big clangers as well that have lost us games or have at least put us behind. And I think on balance, if we look at it, I do think Rambo deserves to be in there. I think there's still a lot of room for him to improve there. I definitely think that. I think, some of the saves that he makes are world class, but at the same time, he definitely has some rookie-ish errors that maybe come from his age and his lack of experience and so on, which I think he'll get better at over the time. But I think on balance, he deserves to be in there. But I mean, if we focus a little bit more on De Gea now, I mean, I think it's clear he doesn't deserve to be team of the season. But the real question is, does he deserve to be Man United's number one? So I think let's get into that a little bit and let's think about this, right? Keep or sell or bench even. What do you want to do with De Gea?
Mate, what a masterful segue. You'd never tell we've been doing this for such a short time. You smashed that. Yes, I mean, for me, it should be this should be another opportunity for Ten Hag to be ruthless. So he's been ruthless with Ronaldo. He kicked him out the door, club legend, our greatest ever modern day player, whatever. He's out of it. He's playing in Saudi Arabia with Al Nasser and them, man. So he's done now. He's had other stuff where Rashford even has overslept and missed the team meeting, bench. Garnacho acting a bit big for his boots on tour. Doesn't see a minute on the whole tour. He's been ruthless. The De Gea situation is probably another similar level of test to the Ronaldo one, where he's got to say, look, you've got a goalie who's I think 31 now, or 30, 31. He's been here for years and years and years. He's done great stuff for us. I'm not going to take, his performance this season and last few seasons is not going to erase, the seasons where he was unbelievable and won, player of the season and all that. But I would let him go. So it is, sell. We can't sell him because his contract's running up, right? So it's essentially, do you re-sign him or do you release him, right? Keep or sell. I would let him leave. Now, there's some people out there saying, he's going to sign a reduced contract for way less money. Let's keep him. We can keep him on the bench. But we've got to look at this logically. He's on 375k a week. He's the best played goalie in world football, I believe. I'm not sure about Donnarumma at PSG, right? Because there could be some
dodgy dealings going on.
Some brown paper bags and, hotels in his name and all this kind of stuff. Like, it could be, allegedly, potentially. But regardless, he's one of the top paid goalies in the world. And I don't think he is one of the top goalies in the world anymore. So I don't think it makes sense to keep him. And even if you reduce his pay packet, they're talking about getting him to 200 grand with performance-based bonuses. 200 grand probably still makes him the highest paid goalie in the league. Like, you can't justify that. I'm sorry. And I think for the betterment of the team, you've got to let him go. And this is by no means me saying he's shit. I don't think he's shit. I still think he has games where he's quality. And you can look back on the game and say, wow, if we didn't have De Gea, we would have been screwed. But unfortunately, and I think it was ever since the World Cup, not the last one, but the one in Russia, where he dropped a couple clangers in that, and the Spanish press absolutely ripped him to shreds, and Luis Enrique decided he's not going to even see the 45-man squad from now on. I think he's never been the same. He's carried that same uncertainty and he's carried that same mental block into his matches with United. And for the last 2-3 seasons since then, or wherever, it's probably been 4 seasons by now, he's not been the same goalie that he was before. And he's kind of almost reverted to type, because you remember when he first joined and Fergie signed him, he was the invisible goalie. I remember the 6-1 slapping we got against City at home. Like, a couple of them just went straight through him. It was like, what the hell is the point of having a goal if you can't make a save? So he's gone back to being more timid, which I think is his natural character, and that influences his goalkeeping style, because a goalie needs to be big and not necessarily like a house. You don't have to, be a Emi Martinez, but you've got to have a big aura and make yourself look big, and you've got to make yourself daunting. And I've heard some pundits say that he's making himself smaller and whatever. Like, I get it. I feel that too sometimes. Well, we've been in OT, we've seen it. Sometimes
to be honest with you, you could get more stature out of a coat hanger. I mean, he makes himself... I'm surprised he's even got shoulders and his shirt doesn't fall off of him, because I don't understand what he does. He's built like a pepper army when he's in goal for you lot.
I heard someone... I remember when he had that hair. I don't want to slander him, but people were saying he looked a bit like an alpaca or something. Like, he was built like an alpaca. And I love him. I'll take that back, because I love David as a goalie. He's been good for us. He's been... At some point, it's been world class for us, but I think you've got to be ruthless now. If Ten Hag wants to really transform this team into the team that he wants it to be, which is what we talked about earlier, having more of the ball, you can't just rely on having Lisandro Martinez there to get yourself out of sticky situations. Just like Rambo can't rely on having a Saliba or a Gabriel there to make some of his hospital passes look better. Like, he has to be... Like, Rambo can improve. We know that because already for Arsenal in the last 2 seasons, he's improved loads. De Gea, I don't think is a project goalie. He won't improve more. I think he's made slight improvement with his feet this season, but then he's just like taken a couple steps forward and then 3 or 4 back by making big clangers. So I just don't think it's worth like prolonging this situation. Like it'd be like, in a relationship, you're done and but you don't have the balls to like end it. Like just end it. You've got the opportunity now. His contract's going to run out. Just let him go. Go sign another goalie who has the attributes that you're looking for, who's younger or who's going to be more capable of developing the skill set if they don't already have it perfectly fine-tuned. So you can I'm looking at the goalkeeping stats here if we go back to like who should be in team of the season. I think stats around save percentages, obviously factor in how many saves they face, etc., combined with how many clean sheets they get, probably is going to give you a better idea of who should go in there. And so the person I would ask us to go and sign is David De Gea from Brentford. He's got the best save percentage. He's faced probably the most shots, which probably skews it slightly, but he's got, a 74.7 save percentage. He's top. Compare that to David De Gea, who's got a 67.7% save percentage. He's in 12th. So he faces a lot less shots, but he's also saving loads less. So, there's some anomalies. Kepa's number 2, we know he's pants. But Bert Leno's number 3, he's really good. He's improved again. Nick Pope, who's in with a shout, I think, too. He's high up there. Emi Martinez is high up there. There's, even Alisson, and they haven't played well. Alisson's 8th, Ramsdale's 9th. The best goalies are generally in the top 10. Let's put it that way. And if you combine the stats, they would be in the top 5. Now, De Gea's only good stat is his clean sheets. So I think what you can gather from that is he's probably relying a lot on his defence to get those clean sheets, and less so his performances. He's probably had better performances when he's conceded. He's facing more shots, he's saved more, he's doing more, and I think that's when you see the best De Gea. But I don't think that's the type of style we're going for in the future. So I think very long answer to keep or sell. I'd say get rid of him and just move on, get another goalie. What do you think? You think I'm maybe being harsh to a club legend, or do you think I'm on the money?
No, I think you're on the money there. I think like you said, I think Ten Hag's got a great opportunity here to gracefully get rid of a club legend who theoretically could put up more of a struggle to get rid of, right? Like we talk about Ronaldo and getting rid of club legends and getting rid of people who don't fit into the mold of what Ten Hag wants United to be. I think De Gea has been a great servant to your team, clearly, right? And I mean, he's going to go down in your history books whether he stays or not, right? But yeah, I would agree. I think you've got to let him bow out. I think getting him on a reduced contract, like you said, unless you can reduce it to 50 grand, what's the point? You just got to get rid of him, try and get someone else better in. And I think Raya could be a good shout. I think from what I'm seeing, though, I think you might get ripped. I mean, it's a goalie, so you're probably not going to get ripped crazily. But how much do you reckon you're going to have to put down to try and get him?
So I heard Thomas Frank, who, let's be honest, like most managers, he talks out of his arse, right? So I don't know how much of this is true. But he was saying he's a £40 million rated goalie. So I think the issue and the thing that's in our favour if we wanted to get David Raya is, he's not the only one, by the way, but I'm just thinking of who we see week to week in the Premier League, who's gettable, etc. He's gettable. His contract's running out. He's only got 1 year left. So when the season ends, he's got 1 year left. So effectively, Brentford got to sell him this summer, or they got to believe they can re-sign him in the last year and take that risk. So I think there's a really good chance for someone to get David Raya. And I think other teams who need a goalie will look at him. He's one of the better goalies who's available, who has the potential, I think he's 25, 26, to improve more and in a better team become a top-class goalie. So I think, yeah, you're probably looking at 40 mil, something along them lines.
If you look outside the Premier League, you might not get ripped off as much. I know I saw some, what was it? Can't remember if it was Dalot maybe that was commenting on Diogo Costa and the relationship between them, and maybe he's someone that's on your shortlist. I think also Mainan from AC could be a good shout too. I always feel like you're going to get better value for money if you go outside the Premier League, though. I think
normally
sure
I would agree with
opportunities.
No, normally I would agree with you, right? And I think you're probably right in most cases. But I think the shortlist should be those three guys, right? Ideally, I think. But I actually think Raya will be the easiest and cheapest of those three to get. So Diogo Costa, I think, re-signed or had a contract extension somewhere around the World Cup time. They've put in a release clause, I think, of like 70 mil or something. So that's going to be loads. You know how Porto, Benfica, Sporting, all of those guys
They like to
move.
rinse Premier League teams, yeah.
They're smart. They're smart guys. They're smart businessmen. They're more business than football a lot of the time. They smash it. So that's more expensive, and he's not prem proven. He's younger. He threw a couple of clangers in at the World Cup, right? He can make mistakes. So I don't know. I would agree with the idea of that, but we're going to get Antony shouts like you guys bantering us because you're going to spend a lot of money and he will make mistakes because he's young. He's going to make mistakes. So I would probably say not. If we had unlimited budget, okay, consider that kind of goalie. But I think with what we have, the reality of the situation, making a better financial decision, safer, I would pick Raya. And Maignan I like a lot. He's bloody great, mate. I don't know how Lloris has been still France's number one goalie before he retired. Like, he's way better than Lloris. And but even him, I think Milan will want an arm and a leg. They know he's been great recently. So I think Raya would be the easiest one. And I would just do it. I think it'll be a quick and easy deal. We know how much we got to pay. 40 million is not outrageous. You're not paying Kepa fees. You're not paying Allison fees. You're paying probably what the market would say is a fair price for a good goalie, and in those circumstances. So I think just do that.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I think we'll move on from there. But you just brought up somebody who I bloody hate. He's got your namesake spelt the right way. I've talked a lot of crap about him because he's Antony. I know that you travelled up to OT. They're really putting the word old back into Old Trafford, isn't it, with the current state of that today. But how was the game yesterday, mate? It looked like De Gea didn't put in too many clangers, and it looked like Antony wasn't quite as he usually is yesterday, did he?
You're such a scumbag. So De Gea didn't have anything to do. So, even then, just like the vibe around Old Trafford was still nervy when he had the ball. People were now. And when Maguire came on, it was double because it was like, oh my God, he might pass to Maguire. Maguire might lose it. Everyone was anxious around those two. But to be fair, they had nothing to do. Maguire only came on for the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes or so. Yeah, it was a pretty calm match. I think there was a lot of anxiety in the stands because we just didn't put away our chances, man. They got fair play. The Wolves goalie who came in, it wasn't Jose Sarr. It was that young lad. I think his name's Bentley. He was good. He made a lot of good saves, but we just weren't clinical. And my namesake, Antony on the right wing, was probably the biggest culprit of not being clinical. And this is the thing. When people give us banter about him, I can take all of the stuff about him not being refined and having a good enough end product. Those two things I agree with. But I'm seeing more and more glimpses of something there as a player if he can fix those things. Like, there was a run where I think he was on in the first half, late in the first half, where he ran from inside our half and took us from a situation where we were under loads of pressure and turned it into a counter just with a direct run. I think he skinned the left back, or I think it was Semedo was on the cover. He skinned him, and then it looked amazing. We were all off our seat. I think he had an easy slip through pass to Tony Marshall, and he didn't. He was kind of a bit nervous, anxious. He didn't know what to do, and he ended up kind of slowing down, backtracking, passing it to someone, losing the ball. So he's frustrating, but he's one of those players that I still believe he can be a good player for us, and I'm seeing glimpses of him doing stuff which can be really useful to us. And it was still our biggest outlet. As much as he didn't have a good enough end product, a lot of our attacks were coming down that way, coming down that right-hand side, and he was at least a lot more direct than Jadon Sancho, who I felt so bad for, man. I wanted him to score. He had chances. He really should have scored at least one. But when he gets the ball, you can just almost feel... You can feel the anxiety. You can feel the kind of pressure on him.
It feels like he wants to get off of it. as soon as he gets on the ball, he just feels like he wants to get straight back off the ball. He's looking for something to get away, and he doesn't keep the ball for very long, right?
No, yeah, that's exactly how he looks, to be honest. He looks like he's a hot potato and he's just trying to get rid of it. So he looks, and the problem is he telegraphs a lot of the things that he's doing. So he's either going to check back, go to Luke Shaw, or go to Bruno or Ericsson, whoever's closer, or he's going to try and look for the very obvious slip through pass to Tony Marshall or Weghorst or whoever's playing up front, or Rashi. And it's all just really predictable, man. And that's the thing. The sad thing is, I remember seeing him for Dortmund. He looked like a bit of a mercurial player who didn't have pace or anything like that, but he had a sparkle. He had something special that you didn't know quite what he was going to do. But yeah, he hasn't recovered from whatever he was going through earlier in the season, and he still just doesn't look like he's going to have an impact, which is the opposite of like Garnacho, who came on and looked a lot like Antony on the left hand side, but he's already got final product. He already can assist, score. I'm not saying he's scoring bags of goals and assisting loads, but he's shown enough that he can score and he can make an assist or do something special in big moments, more than Antony has, and definitely more than Sancho has. So it's hard, man. It's hard to watch Sancho like that, because I like him. Same way I like Saka. We love Rashford. Obviously, all the stuff they went through at the Euros. I've got an extra soft spot for him. I want him to do something, and I know he can, but he just hasn't shown it. And how long do you wait? It's the second season now. I've got to carry the same energy that I had to Grealish earlier on my rant. He's not been quite as shit as Grealish, right? Like, I'm going to caveat that, but he's not done enough. And
well, it just strikes me as a man out of confidence, right? He's a young lad still. I mean, he came into Man United at probably the worst stage you could join the club, particularly as somebody who's getting signed for quite a lot of money with quite a lot of hype around him. It's not a great situation to come into, and I think, I mean, we say all this, but he did put old Dawson on his arse yesterday. I mean, he could have scored that near post. He went for it, but Bentley, I don't know where Bentley's come from, but he was playing really, really well. Could have been a lot more than just 2-0 yesterday. So I think, for me at least, I think Sancho's got some potential. I think it's all about confidence. If you get him on the pitch more, if you get him in a better system, if you get him with maybe a better vibe and a better sentiment around United, I think he will bang. It doesn't help him that he hasn't quite got the pace to get away from someone, particularly in this day and age. But at the same time, Grealish has got a similar kind of issue, right? Grealish ain't the fastest one on the pitch. It's just about, I think, maybe body positioning. I think it's about that confidence. And I think that's something that Grealish has got a lot more of this season too, is that confidence. And if you think about it, Grealish is 26, 27? Sancho's got a bit of time to build some of that up, isn't he?
Nah, you're right, man. I think you're right. I guess maybe I'm looking at it too pessimistically. Like when we were there, he did have his moments, but you don't feel it. When you can feel players got like that electricity. Like even with Antony and people rib him, he's got it. When he's got the ball, you feel like something can happen. Like you don't know. It could be fidget spinning. It could be something stupid and pointless and nothing, and you get angry. Or it could be direct running and something that actually hurts or helps the team. But with Sancho, I guess he does have moments, but it doesn't ever feel like it's going to come with him. Whereas I feel like with Antony, it just feels like he's a little bit closer to it. But I guess you're right. They have different attributes. Sancho's got his, and he's a lot more about intricate passing. And the thing we also are underplaying is he's not had a proper striker at United since he's been there to play with. And when he was at Dortmund, him and Haaland were lethal together. So I guess, I think once we get a proper striker in, hopefully in the summer, that will hopefully help people like Sancho, like Antony, hopefully like Bruno, hopefully like Rashford, if they manage to fit Rashford in that system too. And they get a bit more of a cohesive unit, and you have someone who's helping those guys. Kind of like Gabby Jesus has done for Martinelli and Saka, someone who can come in, hopefully score a bit more goals than him, but, help the other guys score goals as well. So, yeah, man, all I can say was that was the result we needed. At least the performance wasn't nervy. Like, I never felt like Wolves were going to score. It was very calm on that side. It was just frustration at us not being more clinical. And I mean, the goal difference doesn't lie. We're plus 10. Like, to see a top 4 team plus 10 on game week 36 or whatever it is right now with a couple of games left is nuts. And I know that's got a lot to do with taking a 7-0 spanking, taking a 6-3 spanking, taking a 4-1, a couple of others here and there. But we still don't score enough goals. So we have to get that striker. I know they're looking at one. I hope we get one who can help correct that, but also help bring the other players in and make us more clinical and help make things more cohesive. But yeah, man, it was overall, I can't complain. To go up to OT, to watch a match, to see a 2-0, we need 2 more wins to confirm top 4. It'd be great if we could beat Bournemouth on the weekend, and then we've got to win 1 out of the 2 remaining home games, and that's obviously if Liverpool don't slip up, and then we can concentrate on trying to focus on the FA Cup final and give Ten Hag a bit more time to kind of come up with a plan. Because let's be real, we're going to need a bloody miracle to beat City in the FA Cup final. He's going to need to come up with some sort of tactical masterclass to get us the W. So the quicker we can wrap up this top 4 situation and not have to worry about it, the better. And I hope that we can, Bournemouth, I know they've been good, but Chelsea just went there and beat them. So I'm hopeful that they kind of got the Havaianas on and they're ready for the beach, and we can just go there and kind of, take care of our business and then get this top 4 wrapped up as soon as possible, so we don't have a squeaky bum time last couple of matches. But I mean, there's no point me asking you about your upcoming fixtures, right? The league's gone.
Yeah, no. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if us lot start playing like we got Havaianas on, to be honest with you. I mean, I watched Arteta's kind of post-game interview, and it's not looking good, man. It's not looking good. I don't see us coming back from anything. I mean, what we've got to rely on now from City is just unthinkable. It's not happening. They're not going to drop that many points to get us back in it. So it's clearly over. We've got nothing else really to play for. I think what I'd like to see in the last couple of fixtures, and I'm hoping he'll do it, is let's see a bit of faith in some other players in our team, right? Let me try and get a gauge on some of these other players and whether they need to stay around, right? Like Reece Nelson, every time he's come on now, has looked really exciting. He's obviously scored winners for us in important times of the season. I know that there's some talk of maybe him leaving or going somewhere else at the end of the season. So I'd like to see Arteta play some of the players we haven't seen so much play this season. Right? I want to see maybe Fabio Vieira, let him get another chance to rectify his last performance. Let's let Nelson on. Let's get Nketiah on. Let's get some of those players playing. I want to see more of Trossard. So I think that's what I'd like to see from the end of the season. I'm not phoning it in now. It's not like I'm giving up completely, but at the end of the day, these last couple of results, I mean, what we got, Chelsea, I mean, we could play our 3rd string players and we better beat them. So I'm not bothered too much. Obviously, you want to end the season on a good note, so you want to get some wins. But at the end of the day, I want to see some of these players that he signed, some of these young players that have been on the bench for a lot of the season.
Nah, you've already beaten Chelsea, mate. That's how much it meant to you. You've already beaten them.
Didn't even think about it. It's literally gone out of my mind immediately.
We've got Chelsea at home.
That's it.
But you don't. Chelsea have got City still to play. They've got us still to play, and I think they've got Newcastle still to play. So they can influence the top floor race, but not the title race. I think the title race might have been done already, but it's definitely done now. Like City beating Everton. You guys losing to Brighton, like you needed the opposite of that. You needed them to lose and you to win, and then you could say the title race was back on in some form or fashion. But I think it's done now. I think you're right. Use the last couple of games, get Reece Nelson on, get Emil Smith-Rowe on, get Vieira on, get a bunch of players on that you want to see more of and make a decision on. Because, for example, Nelson's contract's running out. Emil Smith-Rowe's at a point where you've got to decide what you're going to do with him, either loan him out or keep him or sell him, I don't know. Vieira's been disappointing, so you've got to try and give him as much game time to try and improve things. There's things for you to gain still in the final few games of the season, even if the title race is gone. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's going to be a banterful summer for you guys. considering how things have been throughout the season. But I still think you can hold your head high. You've had a good season, man. It's been disappointing how it's ended. Some tricky results, but I think getting in the top 4, playing Champions League again. Don't get me wrong, I've seen some madnesses where people talking about, oh yeah, if we sign a few players, we could potentially go far. Like, no, don't think about the Champions League like that. You haven't been in there for 6 years. Get through the groups, get to round of 16, try and win that, get to quarters. If you do that, you're laughing. That would have been a great comeback season in the Champions League. Don't talk about having a chance yet in that. It's flipping tough, man. It's tough.
I think all teams in that top 4, whether it's Newcastle, Arsenal, or Man United, I don't think any of us are really going to be thinking too much about Champions League, right? I mean, unless we make like really home renovation type of changes this summer to a lot of our teams, I think all of us have got to be focused on how do we beat Man City next year? Because like I said before, I've had enough of them. I wouldn't even care if, like, you know, Newcastle sold all of their best players to the two of us just so we could get a chance at the league. I don't care if every single team has to get into collusion and you know, start selling all of our best players just so we can get to the league title ahead of them. I honestly couldn't give a crap, because someone needs to get Pep out of there. But I think the last thing we'll say, and you just mentioned it about, you know, getting some of our younger players on, getting Reece Nelson, everyone else on. I think the last thing I will say is get everyone else on, but don't you dare put Rob Holding on that pitch. All right, that's where I draw the line. Everyone else can get on that pitch, but not Rob Holding. All right, so I think we'll wrap it up there.
Wow,
big thanks to everyone
harsh.
Get
so
Rob
harsh
Holding
on Rob Holding.
Get him back to
Poor
Turkey,
Rob.
get him a new hairline, whatever he needs.
His hair's phenomenal, mate. His hair's phenomenal.
Care,
I want to reach out to him.
Take him to Claire's, get him some accessories for his hair, get him a couple of hairbands, and get him off the pitch, because I'm sick of seeing him. No more Rob Holding. That's what I'm going to put on my next sign when I go to the Emirates, mate. No more Rob Holding.
I can't argue with you. I can't deny that. Let's end there. We love you, Rob, though, but obviously, like, you know, probably don't
play for us, please. Yeah.
No, but that's a good point, John. So let's hope things go better in the last couple of weeks, and you guys can end on a positive at least. It'd be a shame to, you know, lose a couple more and have a rough end to the season, considering how well it's gone for the most part. And yeah, let's hope we get top 4 and the season ends.
You'll be the only one hoping for that, mate.
Yeah, I know, he's gone back. It's never a two-way street with you guys, is it?
Stick to 5th, mate. Stick to 5th.
We can support you guys for beating City, but you still don't want us to get top 4.
No.
Let's hope we beat them in the FA Cup, because come on, you got to want us to beat them in the FA Cup. Come on, we can't have them travelling.
I'm conflicted there, but yeah.
Oh, you bastard.
Is there a way for no one to win? I want 11 sending offs, mate. I want everyone sent off the pitch. Just postpone it till next season.
Well, let's hope.
Well, if Casemiro's there, you might get everyone sent off, to be fair.
Yeah, all right. Let's end on that point then. So thanks a lot, everyone, for tuning in. If you're listening on one of the audio platforms, I'm thinking Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, please make sure to follow our podcast as well, so you can get early access to the new episodes when they drop. If you could leave a 5-star review, that would be super helpful. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, share. Just try and get like our audience growing now. We're obviously super new, so you know we could use all the help we can get. So yeah, thanks a lot, and tune in next week. We'll see you next week. See you, Johns.
Cheers, guys.
Social Podcast Network.
When you earn your degree online at Arizona State University, you get everything the nation's most innovative university has to offer. The same internationally recognized faculty, the same nationally ranked programs, the same degree. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.